Hello everyone. In this flow, we'll be focusing on building some heat in our backs, getting deeper into our back bend stretches and building some strength. It's all about back bends today. So go ahead and prepare in a seated position. I'm sitting on my knees. We'll begin to press the chest forward, opening up, and exhale, rounding back. Opening forward and rounding back. Feel free to exaggerate this movement as much as you like, as much as your body allows. Really taking your time to warm up your body and your spine. Just preparing ourselves for the rest of the flow. And as we move through this flow together, this is your reminder to listen to your body, do what feels good to you, and only come to the own edge of your stretch. Bringing hands to the ground on all fours here, taking some time to wag out left and right. And coming to a neutral spine. Dropping the belly down towards the ground, inhaling the gaze up, and exhale, round through the back. Flowing out through some cat-cows here, moving at your own pace, breathing deeply. Finding yourself at neutral and dropping the right elbow down towards the ground. Pressing the ribcage to the left and dropping the left elbow. Lifting the right, pressing ribcage to the right, and lifting the left, coming through center. So dropping the right, dropping the left, lifting the right, lifting the left, all the while drawing a big circle with your rib cage. So beginning to smooth out this movement and totally making it your own movement. If the elbows don't come all the way down, that's totally cool. It's doing what feels good to you. Go ahead and pause at the top here. We'll begin to switch directions. So dropping the left elbow, dropping the right, lifting the left, and lifting the right. So rolling through center, dropping left, drop right, lift left, lift right. Continue to smooth out that motion on this side. Finding yourself back at neutral and rounding your back up towards the ceiling, pressing all that air out. If you got a little dizzy from all the circles, taking it slowly, breathing deeply. One more cat-cow, rounding towards the ceiling. Dropping the belly down. And holding here. So while your back is as arched as you can get it, leaning a little forward and a little back. Keeping the arch throughout the movement. If you find your back rounds towards the back of the movement, don't come as far back. Only come as far back as you can keep a decent arch in your back. Hinging forward and back. Maybe you walk your hands out a little further and drop your hips a little closer towards the ground. Coming right back to center, rounding through the back. And while you keep this roundness, hinging forward and back. Forward and back. Forward and back. Holding right in center, dropping the belly, inhaling the gaze up. And pressing hips back, rounding, coming forward, arching, and coming back. So building a little flow. The further you walk your hands out in front of you, the bigger the flow will be. So the more flexible you are on your back, the further you should bring your hands. So arching, pressing the hips back, rounding, rolling through the front. Arching and pressing back, rounding through the front. Continue to smooth out this movement. Always feel free to pause the video or stop what you're doing and watch, and then go to your own practice. Go ahead and pause at the back and we'll reverse the motion. So keeping the arch, coming forward, rounding and pressing back. So opposite thing here. Arching forward, rounding back. Forward, up and back. Flowing out here. Seeing how much you can press the bend into each vertebrae. Moving deeply and with intention, breathing deeply here. Take a few more. And hold yourself in neutral, wiggle it out a little left and right. Taking any movements that feel good in this moment. And we'll hold ourselves still, taking hands wide outside each edge of your mat and dipping your chest down in between your hands. So if I'm looking at you from the side, your chest is in line, your shoulders in line with your elbows, in line with your hands, and rocking a little forward and a little back. You should feel a big stretch across the front of your chest and shoulders. Beginning to take that into more circles. It's all about the circles and the flows today. So as this is a back bend video, shoulder flexibility is very important for back bend, so we do need to warm up our shoulders. Taking some small circles as if you're taking shoulder rolls, but we have that added resistance, the weight of our body against the floor. Whatever direction you were going, go ahead and move in the opposite. Take a few more here. Eventually settling down in that low position, holding, getting a big stretch across the shoulders. And pressing up. Wiggling out a little left and right, rolling out the shoulders if that feels good. Arching the back, inhale the gaze high. And dropping hips towards heels, finding that same seated position as you did at the beginning of class. Take a bigger roll in the shoulders, bring your attention back to posture. If it's not comfortable for you to sit on your heels like I'm doing, you can tuck your toes so your feet aren't flat against the floor here. So bring your fingertips, interlacing them and pressing out forward. Inhaling up high above our head and releasing our hands. Allowing our shoulders to open and come out to the side. Drawing a big circle, so coming forward, open up out to the side. Forward, open up, drawing a big circle. Rounding forward, pressing the air out. Inhale, open the arms up towards the ceiling and back behind your back. Forward and open up. One more, forward. Open up. And opening your hands behind you, we'll begin to reverse directions. So dropping down by your hips, opening up above head and rounding forward. Opening up the shoulders, the chest, rounding forward. Take a few more of these. Moving slowly and with intention, pressing into every point of the shoulder here. Interlacing the fingers above the head, taking a big breather, opening the chest, and grabbing opposite elbows above your head. While we hold opposite elbows or reaching towards opposite shoulders, begin to draw some circles with the rib cage. So pressing the chest forward, over to one side, through the back, and to the other. And switching directions. Releasing hands high, sending your gaze up, reach, reach, reach. And exhale, hands come down to either side, big roll in the shoulders. Taking hands in a clasp behind your back, beginning to open up the chest. Inhale, send the gaze high if that feels comfortable. Reaching your hands a little over to the left, turning towards your right. And to the other side. One more time each side, hands to the left. Through center and to the right. Finding your way right back at center, big back bend and exhale. Releasing the hands. Rounding deeply through the back, releasing any tension between your shoulder blades, rounding, allowing the chin to drop towards the chest. Gently releasing the hands down towards the floor, keeping that same roundness through your back. Eventually rolling out, dropping your hips down, dropping your belly and your chest to the floor. Allowing hands to come down by either side, bending at the knees and windshield wiper out the legs side to side. Coming on to your right ear, turning gaze to the left. And switching your gaze to the other side to make ourselves even. Go ahead and release your legs long along your mat, bringing hands beneath the shoulders and beginning to press your chest up, lifting it off the mat, all the while keeping your shoulders down and back along your spine. Lifting the chest. And if your body allows you to lift your hands a little here, try that. So releasing for a moment. Inhale lifts you up. Maybe you float your hands, pressing strongly through the tops of your feet, engaging your legs so much that maybe even your knees lift up off the mat. So build a little flow, keeping the hands floating, opening the arms wide to either side and back, floating above the floor. Opening and floating. Opening and floating. Opening and floating. One more. Opening and floating. An extra one if you'd like. Bringing hands in front. Shaking out the feet a little. And keeping arms extended, begin to press the chest a little higher, pressing into your upper spine. A lot of times, stretching like this, our lower back will take most of the stretch, and we want to even out the curve along our back. So dropping the elbows down to either side. Coming into Sphinx pose, and this may look like we're just chilling, hanging out here, but it is actually an isometric stretch. So pulling actively the elbows towards your body, towards your heels, active all the way through the thighs and the legs. Pulling, pulling, pulling the shoulder blades together. You may start to shake here if you're doing it right. Beginning to take a little shoulder rolls, relaxing the tension in the shoulders, and pressing hands below the shoulders, lifting up and releasing. So lifting, pressing towards cobra, and releasing chest towards the floor. Taking a couple more of these, rolling the body up and down, and don't worry about getting your elbows completely straight here. That's not what's important in cobra. What's important is really pressing that chest forward, evening out the curve throughout the spine. Holding at the top here, walking the arms out a little more in front of you. And play around with angles here. Find that right angle where you really feel like you're getting an even stretch throughout your back. Everyone will be a little different. So drawing elbows down, holding your Sphinx pose, that isometric stretch. Pressing through the hands, straightening the elbows a little more, and dropping the elbows. Pressing and dropping. Pressing and dropping. Pressing. Drop the right elbow, look over your left shoulder. Through center, dropping the left, looking over your right. Through center. Dropping both elbows. Pressing through the hands, through your cobra, lifting your hips, finding that nice arch in your back, and beginning to draw a big circle. Pausing and switch directions. So we'll begin to build a flow here. Feel free to watch the first time through. So rolling through, dropping the hips, the belly, the chest. Inhale through cobra and exhale to a bit of a child's pose. Drawing a big circle with the hips counterclockwise. Pausing and drawing a big circle clockwise. Pausing, rolling through center. Dropping the belly all the way down. And pressing back up through cobra to your child's pose. Drawing a big circle. And circle the other way. Rolling through center. And back up. Continue to flow through this flow, drawing the circle to one side and the other side. Through center. I'm going to take one more time. Lifting up, pressing the hips back. Go ahead and flow through this time at your own pace, eventually ending on your belly. Reaching your arms out in front of you and walking your hands in a little closer so you prop your chest up off the mat. Engaging both legs, but lifting your left, holding it up, engaging your lower back, and releasing towards the floor. Switch to the other side, lifting the right, and release. Left, release. Right, release. Left, and see if you can lift your right arm at the same time. And release. Lifting the right and maybe the left arm. And release. Switching sides and down. Switching and down, picking that speed up again. Alternate arm and leg. Lift and lower. Lift and lower. Taking a few more each side. Lift, lower. One more. Lift, lower, and make it even. Lift. And pulse it up for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it up and release. Switch sides, lift it up and pulse. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And release. Allow the knees to windshield wiper out side to side. Eventually extending the legs long, pressing through the hands, through your cobra, through all fours, walking the knees to the middle of your mat. If this doesn't feel good on your knees, to stand on them like this. Option to take a blanket or roll up your mat beneath your knees. Open up a little more through the shoulders, rounding forward and opening tall. So we'll round for it. As we open tall, bringing arms out wide to either side. So rounding and opening and moving quickly to build that heat in the body. We need to keep our spines nice and warm. Sitting up tall, bringing hands to our hips, almost as if we're sticking them into our back pockets if we were wearing jeans. Beginning to press the hips forward. So engaging the core to protect our back from bending beyond its capabilities. And if it's comfortable for you to walk your hands down the backs of your thighs, go ahead and do so. And try one more time. So release a little, and then begin to walk hands down your hips, down your thighs, and if it's available to walk them to your heels, whether your toes are tucked or flat on the feet. Find your way there. Keeping the core engaged and finding a slight rock backwards and forwards, actively pressing the chest open towards the ceiling. And walking hands back up your hips and finding some stillness here. Do let all your air go and a big exhale, sitting down on your hips, and we'll begin to draw some circles. So rounding, scooping the pelvis under and pressing back, drawing little circles with your hips. engaging your belly and your core in this movement. And go ahead and switch directions. Finding stillness, bringing the knees wide, and pressing into a child's pose forward. Reconnecting to breath, slowing down a little. Eventually making your way all the way to your belly, bending your left foot and taking your left hand to your ankle or to the top of your foot for a big quad stretch. And go ahead and release the left hand. Take a twist, reaching the right hand back towards the left foot. And beginning to apply some pressure from the foot into the hand. Maybe the knee lifts off the mat a little. And maybe that opposite arm reaches up. Go ahead and release and try one more time. Pressing the foot into the hand, that tension is what's going to lift the knee and lift the arm. And go ahead and release that, and we'll switch sides. So the right hand will come forward, propping up the chest. And the left hand will reach back for that same side leg. Pressing foot into hand, lifting. And releasing. One more. Inhale, lift up. Hold. Engaging through that extended back leg as well. And releasing, reaching arms out forward. Bending into the right knee, reaching back with the right hand for a quad stretch. Releasing the right hand, taking a twist with the left hand to the right leg. Beginning to apply some pressure with the foot into the hand. Maybe your right arm lifts. And release. Try one more time on this side. Lift up. And release. Switching sides, same side, foot and hand, pressing the foot into the hand, lifting, reaching, and release. One more time on the inhale, lift up. And release, bringing both hands forward, dropping the feet back and sending hips towards heels. Take a child's pose. Lifting a little to bring your knees in line with your hips. Be coming into a puppy pose. The puppy pose is similar to child's pose, except for the hips are aligned over the knees. So level 1 for a puppy pose would be to have the forehead down against the mat. If you're a little more open through your chest and shoulders, bring your chin and your chest towards the mat. And for an added stretch into the upper spine, begin to walk the hands out a little more forward so the hips come further in front of the knees. So take a stretch into each leg. So extending the left leg, if that feels okay, pressing through the heel. And releasing, extending the right. And releasing. To come out of your puppy pose, rolling the belly down towards the mat. We'll begin to make our way through down dog to seated, pulling knees into chest as we take some rock and rolls forward and back, rounding as much as we can through the spine. My bird is flying out in this video, so he likes to run by and try and land on me sometimes. Finding our way onto our back, bringing feet wide on the mat and knees to fall in towards one another for a quick release in the lower back. And we'll work more deeply into our wheel pose for the remainder of this flow. Bringing our knees in line with our hips and walking your heels in as close as they can. Pointing a little through the toes, lifting the heels and dropping the heels. Pointing and dropping the heels. Bringing hands down by the sides, lifting the hips, coming towards a bridge. Lifting the heels and dropping the heels. Lifting and dropping. Lifting and dropping. Go ahead and bring your hands behind your back in a clasp, allowing you to press your hips a little higher as you continue lifting and dropping the heels, engaging the glutes, squeezing up and dropping the heels down. Releasing your hands and bending at your elbows to bring your hands to your hips. Release the weight of your hips onto your hands for deeper back bend. Releasing a little, lifting the hips and bringing the hands up a little further along your spine. They'll be on the sides of your body, but we'll begin to stretch higher and higher along our back. So lifting the hips, bringing the hands a little higher towards your chest, and sinking down. Lifting it one more time, walk them up as high as they can, pressing through the upper back. Lifting and gently releasing the hips all the way down. Reaching the arms high above head for a big stretch, windshield wiper, the knees side to side. And we'll begin to work towards our wheel. So working towards pressing into wheel from lying on your back. Hands will come up above the head, fingertips facing towards your heels. So work on pressing your hips up towards a bridge, getting that feeling in the legs. For the feeling in the shoulders, apply some pressure to the hands, lift the shoulders a little. And try to avoid lifting up and then landing back down on your head. So once you press up, try and press all the way, engaging through the legs, pressing, and feel free to watch me do it first, pause the video, and try again. So here I show what it would look like to come to your head and then press from there. That happens with a lot of beginners, but if you can try to build the strength first and avoid that pressure on your head, that would be preferred. Finding yourself in your wheel. Gently lowering down, rounding through the back, and we'll try again together. Letting all your air go, shaking out your hands. And on the next inhale, pressing through the hands and through the feet, lifting up. See if you can get an even amount of pressure from your hands and from your feet. Holding here, actively pressing your chest forward. If it helps to find a little rocking motion, if you're more advanced in your back bend, that's an option. You can work on lifting the heels, dropping the heels. I'll give lots of ideas for variations here, so feel free to take any that call to you. Once you find your back bend, see if you can find a bit of a back bend push-up. So bending into your elbows, maybe even tap your head and lifting up. You can do them two ways. You can either keep your hands narrow or take them wide on your mat, lowering and lifting, lowering and lifting, pressing the chest forward and rounding the back, coming all the way down. Bringing the soles of the feet in to touch, the knees come wide. Taking a few deep breaths here. So I'm providing the remainder of time in this flow to really practice your back bend and try as many times as you would like. Even pause the video and try on your own and then rejoin. So go ahead and take this time out for your own practice. I will continue to talk through some more variations if you're more advanced or looking for some other things to do. So an idea here could be to come to your back bend and lower to your elbows, continuing to really press your chest forward. This will get a little more into your upper back. Extending the legs long behind you, pressing, pressing, pressing. In order to come out of this, you can either lower from your elbows or press back up onto your hands and lower down from there. I'll show that one more time. Pressing into your back bend as you usually would. Taking one elbow to the floor and the other. Keeping the knees bent or extending them straight. And pressing back up to your wheel to lower down to the mat. If you choose to stay in wheel, another exercise you can do is to drop the hips a little and lift them up. So it's like you're sitting in a chair, but in this weird wheel position, and lift them up. When you do that, your head will lift a little. Don't expect your gaze to stay towards the floor. So another way to get into the back bend with your forearms on the ground is to come through a headstand or a forearm stand and jump your way over if the lowering from back bend to elbows isn't available. And find your way almost into a sloppy sort of headstand. Allow the feet to fall behind you and stretch out from there. So when you're done practicing, find your way onto your back, pull knees into chest, give yourself a big hug for all that work you did today. Rocking out a little side to side. Allowing the feet to fall wide on the mat, the knees to fall in towards one another. While we lay here, tucking the pelvis under a little, pulling in your belly button, and then exhale, relaxing it back. Just gently drawing the spine back to its normal position, rounding and relaxing. Do that a couple times and allow knees to come into chest. Feeling your lower back and your sacrum press firmly into the mat. Feel very comforting. Grounding yourself in, releasing arms wide to either side and dropping knees together on over towards your left. Through center and to your right. Returning to center, pulling both knees into your chest. That is all I have for this flow today. Thank you all so much for following along with me, providing me with all your love and support. Namaste.